paper and pen. Bible study begins. Genesis, prophets, till the time of the end. Keep exegesis in check, give hermeneutics respect. Stay in context, theologically correct. Now make an impact, word of Yahweh in effect. Get your study on, let your mind be blown in this Bible chat. Hey, and this Bible chat, study on.
Well, hello. Welcome to Bible Chat. My name is Erica, your beloved host, and today we're going to dive right back into the book of Proverbs as we discuss wisdom and listening. So, let's get started. Listening is a skill. It's a skill that all of us should actually learn. We all have to learn how to be a good listener. For example, I work with children. I work with 2.5 to 3-year-olds. And one of the skills that I'm working really hard to teach these students is the power or the value in listening. For example, we were playing a game one day. We were going to play a game with a parachute. And so one of the things I was telling the kids is to listen so that you will know the right thing to do, so that you don't accidentally get hurt or accidentally hurt anyone else. So, believe it or not, I actually got quite many that were actually listening and paying attention to the instructions of the game. But there's always somebody, or in this case, somebodies, that just cannot listen and are just doing their own thing. And so after saying the same thing 3 times, I said, you know what, baby? You're not ready to play. You're just not ready to play. So you need to go have a seat. Go have a seat right there and you get to watch us play. Now, of course, they're all hysterical. I want to play. No, you know why? Because you're not listening. You're just not listening. In Hebrew, the word is shema. The word shema means to hear, to perceive, encompass. Take heed and respond. The same word that is used when we're talking about the prayer of Israel. When you look in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 through 5, Israel would say this prayer daily as a reminder to know, commit, and obey the word of the Lord. Hearing coincides with obedience. There actually is no word for obey in the Hebrew language like we have in English. So when you look at the words obey and also the word for listen or hear, you actually get the same word, shema. When one hears or when one truly listens, it's with the expectation that the person will then act in accordance to what they've heard. So let's look at examples in Deuteronomy and Exodus. In Deuteronomy 11:13 and Exodus 24:7, the people of Israel in the wilderness hear the word of the Lord through Moses, and then they respond with, all that the Lord has spoke, we will do and we will be obedient. In Psalm 143:1, David says, Lord, hear my prayer. Listen to my cry for mercy. In your faithfulness and righteousness, come to my relief. Hear my prayer. Listen to my cry. David wanted God to hear his prayer. Now, this isn't to say that the Lord is deaf or hard of hearing, but when he says for the Lord to hear his prayer, what he's saying is he needs the Lord to take action. Do something! In Jeremiah chapter 7, we see the word of the Lord come to the people of Judah. Yahweh speaks about the profaning of the temple, idol worship, and all of the wicked deeds that these people were doing. The Lord then warned them, and yet they still would not obey. Responding correctly or appropriately takes wisdom. Now, the last time we talked about the value of wisdom, I shared with you my insight or my definition of what wisdom is. But today we're going to take a look at the Hebrew word. Wisdom in the Hebrew gives an idea of separating. It's separating that which is good from that which is bad. Okay? So when we look in the book of Proverbs, we see a lot of comparison between the foolish person and the wise person, because that he who is wise is able to separate that which is good and that which is bad, whereas the fool is unable to do that. Okay, so when we look in the book of Proverbs, we come across some very important key words. We have wisdom, understanding, and we have knowledge. So we just looked at wisdom. Now let's look at the word for understanding. The root of the Hebrew word for understanding means to build. In order to build, a person needs to have a plan and they need to have an understanding about the process. So I want you to take this example, okay? So in my classroom, I have been in the process of trying to build a class igloo out of milk jugs, okay? I saw some really cool pictures of igloos and I was like, how hard can this possibly be to take some milk jugs and build an igloo? So I've had all the parents come in, they've dropped off milk jugs, like I thought I was rocking the business. Now mind you that I did not make a plan, I had no idea about the process, no understanding about the process. I know nothing about building an igloo, and it's not as easy as just looking at a picture and just going with it, okay? So what is the almost end result? I'm not finished with it, but the almost end result looks nothing like an igloo. Nothing. It looks more like an ice cube. It's an ice cube. As a matter of fact, we're gonna call it the ice box, okay? Because it's very square and it looks like a big ice box. So we'll call it the ice box, and it's a place where the kids can go and chill. Let's look at the Hebrew word for knowledge. Now, you can go to ancienthebrew.org to get a better understanding of these words, or at least do a thorough reading about it. I don't really have the time to go into like super depth, but with knowledge, it gives an idea of the eyes moving back and forth, like going back and forth. So the eyes are going back and forth in order for this person to fully examine something. One of the things that kind of annoys me about the society that we live in is we live in a society where it's really lacking in that knowledge, that ability to examine something fully. Because when we think about it, in our dear world right now, what people do is they don't want to think for themselves. As MLK would say it pains man to have to think. And so people just jump on a bandwagon, they'll roll with anything if it sounds good. People don't want to take time to let those eyes go back and forth and fully examine anything. But you know what's interesting to me, this is like a little sidebar here, but you know what's interesting to me is that when I read about the eyes going back and forth, you know what I immediately thought about? I immediately thought about REM sleep. So when you go to sleep at night and you hit that deep sleep, in that deep sleep, when you're looking at somebody who's sleeping, you'll see the eyes going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This is also called the dream state, right? So in the dream state, the eyes are going back and forth. And one of the things that I've learned about dreams is it's an opportunity for your subconscious and your conscious to really communicate with each other. And so everything comes out in dreams as symbolism, but all of it usually has some sort of meaning behind it, even though it's not necessarily literal, but it's all like symbolic in a way. And so with the eyes going back and forth, it's like the brain is taking an opportunity to fully examine certain things within our psyche, whether it's certain things that have hurt us, certain things that we're worried about. But I find that very interesting, the eyes move back and forth. And that is not by happenstance, my friend. God, when He created us with the eyes when we sleep to go back and forth. A lack of wisdom comes from a lack of listening. Have you ever met somebody who just could never make a wise decision no matter how much counsel or wise advice that you gave them? I'm gonna give you an example because I live by example. So anyway, when I was working, I used to have this coworker, and we'll just call her Mona, okay? I had this coworker, her name is Mona, and so Mona was like really cool, you know, and I liked her. She worked in the classroom with me. And so I kind of took her underneath my wing. I mean, she had her share of issues, but you know, who doesn't? And so I took her underneath my wing, and you know, I was just kind of like a mentor to her. Now, mind you, certain things about her is that one, the girl was gay, okay? She even cut all her hair off short and tried to put on this masculine look, which I didn't understand. I mean, she's a beautiful girl. But anyway, she cut off all her hair. She doesn't look like a boy. She really likes girls, etc., etc. Now, another sidebar is this. I am never to be one who will be mean or nasty to anybody due to their sexuality or their race or anything else. Because the Bible is very clear about how we treat people, regardless of who they are, where they're from, and what sin that they have. Our responsibility is to love everybody. He did not exclude anybody out of that. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. Love your neighbor. Love your enemy. You're supposed to love everybody. So, I made it clear to Mona my stance on homosexuality. It is a sin. It goes completely. After making that clear to her, we had that understanding, and I still showed this girl some love. This was like my little home skillet. I'd pick her up. I remember one time I got some concert tickets to go see Natalie Grant, who, by the way, is fabulous in concert. The girl sounds better in concert than she does in her albums. But anyway, went to see Natalie Grant, and I was like, hey, you want to go? She's like, yeah. And I like taking her places because she was single, and single people are more fun to hang out with because they can go somewhere at a moment's notice. But the problem with her was that her lack of wisdom was a huge issue. And I say that because one of her issues was the girl had already gone to jail, okay? And one of the things that was part of her probation was to not be drinking. She was not allowed to drink. She had to constantly take a breathalyzer. Well, here's the thing. She's always hanging out with people who would always coax her or get her into drinking. And my thought was, this isn't a wise choice. When you're trying to get away from certain behaviors, don't hang around with people who are just going to keep you in that same behavior. It doesn't even make sense. And so despite the fact that I've told her more and more times, hey, you know what? Surround yourself with people who are going to be supportive of you and who are going to be supportive of where you're going in life. You're trying to do better. You don't want to be drinking and getting into trouble. So hang around with people who don't do that, who don't bring that into your life. Because if they know that you're not supposed to be drinking and they get you to drink anyway, these people don't care about you. They just don't. Well, there's no wisdom there because no matter how many times I've tried to explain that and go over and over it, she still hangs around with people who always get her into some sort of trouble. And my thing is to do the same thing over and over and over and over again, expecting a different result. That, my friend, is insanity. Great counsel, but lacking in wisdom because we're not taking the counsel, the knowledge that was given to her, she was not putting into action. I think I covered that. It was wordy, but I covered it, right? So what exactly makes a wise listener? A wise listener is a person who is teachable, a person who is able to take instruction, guidance, and counsel. So in other words, don't be Mona. In 1 Kings 12, we read about King Rehoboam, who was the son of Solomon, and he became king, kind of temporarily. So anyway, he was getting complaints from the people of Judah as they talked to him about, the labor and taxes. And so he went and got counsel from the elders who had actually served during King Solomon's time. So let's keep in mind what King Solomon's time was, for the most part. And they gave him some really good, wise counsel. He decided he didn't want that. So he goes to his friends, and I call it the homies that he grew up with in the hood. Now that's just me making fun of the fact that he didn't take good advice. He didn't go to the hood or anything, but he did go and seek counsel from friends that he grew up with. And you know what? When we think about it, how much sense does that make? So anyway, I would encourage you, I really do encourage you to read this biblical narrative when you have the time, because I can assure you it's very interesting. But the point is that he refused to take good counsel, and because of that, the cost, well, it definitely cost him. Okay. So being teachable means that you are able to seek, hear, and take on the counsel of others. Good counsel. Okay. Proverbs 11:14, for the lack of guidance a nation falls, but victory is won through many advisors. Proverbs 15 and 22. Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. Proverbs 19:20. Listen to advice and accept discipline, and at the end, you will be counted among the wise. Let's look at King David. So when we look in 1 Samuel, King David is an example of one who will go and inquire of the Lord, get counsel about what it is that he's supposed to do. Now, I think he should have done it more often, okay, because he didn't do that when he saw Bathsheba. But imagine if he had, you know what I mean? He'd been like, Lord, I wanted to inquire of you about this beautiful woman that I'm seeing bathing, right? And the Lord probably would have been like, you need to get off the roof. Go sit down somewhere, David. Ain't you supposed to be at war? We also see people take counsel or godly counsel from other people, which is very possible. I mean, all wisdom comes from God, but it's always great to connect with people who really know the Lord and have a relationship. And they too, the Lord can use as a vessel for good, godly counsel or wisdom. So I want you to think about the messengers that went to seek out prophetess Huldah back when King Josiah was ruling, and they had come across the Torah, which had not been seen apparently in a long time. And so anyway, they went and sought out Huldah the prophetess for wisdom, godly counsel. And in the case of these guys going to see Huldah, what's interesting is that she didn't exactly have the best news to give. So they didn't take that, run with it, and be like, we need to find somebody else who can tell us something that we want to hear. That's not what happened. So there you have it, a teachable moment. And so there's nothing wrong with asking, there's nothing wrong for asking about advice or counsel from godly people around us. The problem comes when we start taking the people who surround us and replace them with people who just agree with everything that we say and everything that we do. We need people in our lives who are going to challenge our thought process. People who are going to challenge our behaviors, challenge our thinking, people who challenge us. We don't need to be surrounded by people who tell us yes about everything. Is this outfit cute? Yeah, girl, it's cute. No, it's not. You're revealing too much. Girl, how does my hair look good? Yeah, girl, your hair looks good. No, it looks a mess. You need to put a comb through it. Have people around you who will tell you the truth in a nice, conservative, constructive way. Because a person who cares about you and is looking out for your best interest is going to be honest with you. They're going to tell you what you need to hear. So, being teachable means I surround myself with people who are not going to tell me yes about every little thing. People who are willing to tell me the truth. People who are willing to tell me no. Hey, you know what, Erica? That's not a good idea. You shouldn't do that. And have good biblical supportive reasons as to why they are saying no. Well, my friends, that is all that I have today. I hope that you had a good time, and I hope that you learned something, because I want to point out that during this Bible study, as I sat down to really dive in, I received lots of wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. And well, until next time.
There will be a day when the watchmen on the hills of Ephraim call out, arise, let us go up to Zion, to the Lord our God. There will be a time when God and his people together forever, they turn from their evil, arise, sins will be forgiven in a beautiful sequel. A prophetic call, heartache,
in Jeremiah chapter 7. Oh, this isn't right. Okay. These were the elders who had been, my goodness, this thing is right.